Hello everyone, and welcome to this crash course in personal finance. Today we'll be looking at a flowchart that describes actions you can take with your personal income in order to reach your financial goals or even set yourself up for financial independence. You can also use this chart to determine what to do with a large sum of money that has found its way into your life. This chart comes from the Personal Finance subreddit on Reddit, and we'll include a link to it so you can review each step at your own pace. We will briefly touch on each of the items on this chart, but if you would like to learn more about each of these, we will include additional links in the description. Alright, let's take a look at the chart. So we have it broken down into these 6 different steps. Starting at step 0, we have budget, reduce expenses, and set realistic goals. Step 1 is to build an emergency fund. Step 2 is to take advantage of your employer's sponsored matching funds. Step 3 is to pay down high and moderate interest debt. Step 4 is saving for retirement in an IRA and making personal investments in things like education. Step 5 is to continue saving for retirement. And step 6 is to save for other goals and advanced methods. The first item on the chart is to create a budget. Now, creating and sticking to a budget can be difficult, but keeping your goals in mind will help you continue through this path and stick to that budget that you set. The first item on this chart would be to pay your rent or mortgage. Next, you're going to want to look at your other necessities that you may have, so this would include buying food or groceries. Depending on your situation, it may also be important to pay your utility bills first, things like water, power, heat, toiletries. Following that, you'll want to pay your other income earning expenses. If you need a reliable car for work or a phone for the work that you do, these expenses will be a high priority for you. Beyond that, you'll want to look at paying your healthcare bill and making minimum payments on all debts and loans that you have. Once you have covered the essential expenses, you'll want to begin contributing to an emergency fund. It's typically recommended to have at least $1,000 or more set aside in this emergency fund. Once you've completed that emergency fund, you can begin looking at paying for non-essential expenses, like cable bills and non-essential internet or phone services. Next, we come to the employer-sponsored matching funds section. If your employer matches 100% of your contribution to your retirement account, it's similar to getting a 100% return on your investment, so it's important to take advantage of this. In the beginning, we recommend contributing the exact amount that your employer will match. So if they match 3% of your salary, you'll want to contribute 3%. Once that step is complete, you'll want to look at tackling your high interest debts. These would be things like credit cards, payday loans, and other personal loans. The chart recommends looking at interest rates of 10% or higher, but I believe that 7% or higher would be a good place to start when looking at high interest debts. In order to tackle these debts effectively, you'll want to look at using either the avalanche method or the snowball method. I will post a video in the future about how these methods differ, but from the basic point of view, the snowball method would be one where you write down all of the debts that you have, including the minimum payment and the total amount that you owe on that debt. You would line these debts up, starting with the lowest amount that you owe in total, and going up to the highest amount that you owe in total. You would begin by making the minimum payments on each of these debts, and with the money that you have left over, you would begin paying off the debt that has the smallest balance. In the avalanche method, you would write down all of your debts, including the minimum payment, the amount you owe, and the annual percentage rate that you pay. You would begin by making the minimum payments on all of these debts, and with the money that you have left over, you would put that towards the debt with the highest annual percentage rate. With the avalanche method, you will end up spending the least amount towards your debts in the end. And with the snowball method, you would reap the benefits of small wins as you pay off your debts. If this is the step that you are at, please find the link in the description that describes the snowball method and avalanche method so that you can get a more in-depth view of each of these methods. Once you have eliminated your high interest debts, you'll want to revisit your emergency fund and begin building a 3 to 6 month living expenses cushion for yourself. Once that cushion has been created, you'll be putting yourself in a good position to begin looking at your moderate interest debts. These would include debts in around the 4 to 5% range, but not including your mortgage. You will again either use the snowball or avalanche method to determine which way you would like to pay off all of these debts. Once you are completely debt-free outside of your mortgage, you can begin looking at contributing more to your retirement accounts. You'll want to start by looking into the difference between a Roth and traditional IRA account and determine which one may be right for you. We will include a link below that describes the difference between these two. As you are researching both of these accounts, you'll want to see what the maximum contribution is that you can make in 1 year. If you are expecting any large required personal expenses or purchases in the near future, you'll want to begin planning for those expenses now. These would include things like college, professional certifications, and a car that's necessary for driving to and from work or other required activities. Since these expenses will be taken on in the near future, you will want to save this money in either a checking or a savings account. Typically, I will keep this money in a money market account from an online bank that offers a high interest rate. Once those required purchases have been covered, you'll want to review your contributions and see if you are contributing at least 15% of your pre-tax income towards retirement. If you are not, if your employer offers a 401k, 403b, or a similar retirement plan, you can begin contributing at least 15% of your income towards that plan. If you're self-employed, you can look into whether an individual 401k, SEP IRA, or simple IRA plan would be right for you and your business, and begin contributing towards that plan. And then we come to step 6 with the more advanced methods. If you have a qualified high-deductible health plan and are eligible to invest in an HSA, you can max your HSA yearly contribution at this time. At this time as well, you will also want to consider if you have children that plan on going to college and what your financial responsibility will be at that time. If you will be contributing to your children's education, you can evaluate the savings and investment options such as a 529 plan and make contributions to that plan. At this point in the chart, you have begun setting yourself up for a secure financial future, and you have opened up many different options to yourself. Continuing on from here, you can look at things like retiring early or setting up other savings goals that you may have. If you would like to consider retiring early, you can max out a 401k, 403b, or other employer-sponsored account. Also consider the Mega Backdoor Roth IRA, then use a taxable account. In the description, you can find a link to learn more about the Mega Backdoor Roth IRA. If you have other savings goals that have a timeline shorter than 3 to 5 years, you'll want to set that money aside in a savings or money market account. Typically, an online savings account will offer a high interest rate. If you have other savings goals that will take longer than 3 to 5 years, you can look at investing that money in a mix of stocks and bonds. At the bottom of this chart, you will notice a note about entertainment expenses. While these expenses can contribute to the enjoyment of your life, they may significantly slow down your journey to get out of debt or become financially free. We recommend pausing these expenses as best you can while paying down your high interest debt, so that in the long term, you can get the most enjoyment out of your life. As an additional disclaimer, please understand that everyone's situation is different, and you should thoroughly research each of these tactics and techniques before making your own decisions. I hope this guide proves to be helpful as you navigate your financial journey. So what did you think of the guide? Was it helpful? Are you following these steps yourself? Leave a comment and let me know.